Hey guys, welcome to Throwing Dirt. So normally I just kind of upload videos of me in the race car on the track and let you guys watch like that. Something I've been wanting to do for quite a while is a video blog type of deal. Maybe explain some of the stuff on these dirt cars and how it works and what's going on with them. It's quite different from a normal car, so I know most people aren't really familiar with how they work, so give you guys a little bit of insight. Like I said, I've been wanting to do this for quite a while, so I figured the best way to do it is just kind of jump in and see how it goes, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So right now we're in my shop, or my work's old shop I should say. They mostly use it for storage now. At one point in time it was their vehicle maintenance shop. They moved to a new building a number of years ago, and now it's kind of mostly used for storage. They're nice enough to let us use it for our race cars to work on them, so we have a spot to do that. Before we were working out of the new building, we would have to unload and reload our cars at the end of the night when we were done working on them. Giant pain, giant hassle, and so we asked if we could use the building, and they said yes, as long as they don't need it. So don't know how long we'll be here, but for now this is where we're based out of and where we're at. So today gonna be working on the super late model a little bit. Took it out to the track for the first time last week. I had a couple issues. It was spitting, sputtering, stumbling all over itself, blowing oil out of the oil tank. It's got a dry sump system on it, so got a couple theories of what's going on there. I'm gonna work on that today, get the oil drain, get the tank off of it, and kind of show you guys what's going on with that. As far as the spitting, sputtering, and stumbling, my brother and I looked at the car last weekend after we got it back home. The floats were set a little too high, so we adjusted the float a little bit. I haven't really driven it or messed with it since, but it's going to need a little more adjustment. So I don't know if I'll get to that today or not. That's kind of the theory of what was going on there. At least it was part of it. It was overflowing fuel from the bowl directly into the carb, so we adjusted it down, got it to stop doing that, so we'll see how that goes. Once I get the oil system straightened out on it and a couple other things before we take it out onto the track again, we'll get it warmed up and readjust both the front and rear bowls on it again and make sure everything's good there. So I have to apologize. Most of the time I'll be working in the shop. It'll be night, so lighting is really terrible in this shop. I don't have a bunch of equipment yet. I don't have any tripods or anything like that. Right now you guys are attached to my modified on the roll cage, so bear with me. I'll get some more equipment, get some lights, so you guys can kind of see what's going on a little better. But for now, this is what I got, so this is how we'll do it. So I'll take you off the modified, kind of give you a quick tour of what's going on over here at the shop, give you a quick look at the cars, and kind of go from there. Alright guys, so here we are. Got a quick tour of the shop, show you the cars, everything that's going on. Right now my work is currently moving out another building they're getting ready to lease. So they're going to be moving some stuff in and out of here over the next coming weeks. We're limited to these two bays over here, these two in bays. We got 3 cars, so you can see it's kind of, we're packed in here like sardines at the moment. Eventually, in the next coming weeks, I'm going to get this 86 modified back on the ground and rolling, and I'll be taking that home, putting it in my 2-car garage at the house, give us a little more room. So we'll just start with this car, I guess. This is my modified, the car I started in. Right now it's been a parts car for my buddy's car, which is over there. I'll show you in a minute. We've been robbing parts off of it. He's tore his up a number of times, so we had this one sitting here and had good parts on it, so he's been kind of robbing them until he can afford to get his parts, which is fine because I'm not using it, as you can tell. But eventually I'd like to get this car back together, and our local track doesn't run late models every week, and would like to be able to run another car when they're not running them. So this car I ran as a B mod. The motor's currently in my buddy's car, but we might build another motor for it, give it a little more power. No, there ain't really much to see there. Here's the super late model, also number 86. I picked this car up a couple months back, did some trading. Like I said, we had it out first time last weekend. Get the new car bugs fixed on it and hopefully be able to run pretty well with it. It's got a all aluminum 421 inch small block Chevy, dart block, dart heads, 15-degree heads, intake, stealth carb. We can get it running right, it should do okay. Made in the mid 700s on the dyno or so, I was told. My buddy, he's the one that normally helps me. This is his car. He's not really big into the social media thing, so I don't know if he's going to be involved in this or not. But this is a Bob Kearse. I believe it's a 2012. This is also a B mod. Was originally going to be an A mod, but had a little mishap with his motor, blew it up. I can show you the damage on his old motor. This was a 434, and we made about 10 minutes of runtime on it before it gave up the ghost. We're not really sure what happened. It dropped a valve or broke a valve spring or something to that effect. I'm not really 100% sure. We have a couple theories, but that's either a Motown or a World block, I can't remember. But all right, so his was a Bob Pierce modified. My modified, we don't know. I was told when I bought it it was a GRT, but I was apparently lied to because there's no chassis tags on it. It doesn't really look like any of the GRTs that I've looked at, so we're assuming it's home built. Kind of a copy of the Dirtworks, we think. The car worked well for a starter car. I mean, super tight, but... And the late model is a 2012 Warrior with front end updates. I called and talked to Warrior about this particular chassis, sent him a bunch of pictures and everything, and it's got all the 2016 updates. So there's a quick tour. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this car rolled out. I'm going to get the driver's door off of it, get it up on jack stands on that side, and we'll drain the oil out of it, get the tank out of it so I can do some modifications to that. I'll kind of explain what I think was going on and why it was blowing oil out of it. So give me a couple minutes and we'll get that done. So I'll kind of get this thing loaded up. So I'll kind of get this thing up on jack stands on the one side. You guys don't need to watch me do that. So, and just like movie magic, we are up on jack stands. So first things, I'm gonna get these doors off, the fenders, and get the hood off of it, so I have access to all the stuff under here. Then we can start getting to work on what I actually am here for today, is to figure out the oil system. So we'll get to it. So generally on the right side of the car, on the doors, or what you would call a door, which is the big long panel on these where a door normally would be, we use a 1/4-20 with lock nuts instead of rivets generally. That way if there's any problems at the track, we can quickly get the door off and get it back on without having to drill rivets. On this particular car, in a few spots I had to use rivets. One where the door meets the rear quarter panel, on the bottom bolt, I was afraid the bolt sticking through was going to get into a tire when I was in the corner, so I put a rivet there instead. And then up here, I ran out of 1/4-20 bolts and lock nuts, so I used rivets instead. I went to the hardware store, picked up a few more 1/4-20s and lock nuts. So I'll be bolting everything together up there instead of rivets this time. So these cars, for the most part, as far as the bodies go, are pretty straightforward. They're not hard to take on and off. I've never built my own body for any of these cars, so I don't know what's involved in that, but we like to set them up, like I said, so we can quickly get the panels off and get everything, or to get quick access to underside of the car if we need it. So here's what we're doing today. This dry sump tank needs to come out. So the issue is, I was blowing oil out of my oil catch can, which is on the other side of the car. I have a line ran from the tank to the breather catch can, and it filled the catch can. So I've talked to a few guys. They said it could be blow by. It could be. We don't think so. The motor isn't really showing any signs that it's wore out per se. So what I'm thinking is going on, let's see if I can get, I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's a return line, and then right next to it is my vent line. So normally those would both be an oil return line. I have one set up as a breather because the breather was on top of this tank, and it was a 20 AN bung welded on it. I cut it off and put a filler cap on it. I figured since I had those two 16 returns, I could use one as a breather. Well, what we think's happening, it's pressurizing the tank a little, and when it's returning the oil, since those two the two returns are so close on the inside of the tank, and it's pressurizing the tank, we think it's returning to the tank and immediately getting blown back out of the breather line and out to my breather can. That's what we think's happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cap off that other return, and I'm going to weld a new bung on the top half of that tank for the breather. We'll see if that cures it. If not, then we'll start looking into the possibility of blow-by and things like that. I don't have a compression tester or a leak down tester here, so I don't. I'd have to borrow the tools from my brother or from work, and I'd really rather not deal with that. So for now, we are going to try this and see if it works. It's not going to cost anything, a little bit of time. I have all the parts that I need already, so we'll do that and go from there. And if it does it again, then we know that there's probably an issue with the motor, and we can start looking into what's going on there. But in the meantime, we'll get this thing drained, get it out, and go from there. And like I said, I apologize if things are kind of hard to see. I don't have any lights yet. That's one thing that's on the list for this winter, is to get some lights and things set up. Try and get a little better production quality out of this. I also know that these videos are probably going to run a little long, so if that's not your thing, sorry. You know, it kind of is what it is. So, alright, let me go grab some tools, and we'll get this thing drained and get it off the car. Hopefully I'll be able to drain this without making a mess. Looks like I put my jack stand in a pretty crappy spot. I think I'm going to move that so we don't get oil all over the place. Like I said, I want to reuse this oil, so it only has 30 laps on it. And as long as there's no metal shavings or anything in it, which I hope not, because that means the motor's got to come apart, we'll reuse it. But we'll just have to see how it looks when it comes out. Let me get this jack stand moved. This drain on the bottom of the tank is like 16 AN. I don't have a set of AN wrenches, but I did buy a set of gear wrench. They're a 44-piece set. Goes from, I think, 1/4 inch to 1.5 inches, and the 1.5 inches fits 16 perfect. So now this particular system holds 5 gallons, or at least it's got a 5-gallon tank. I had I believe, well, I put a full case in, so 3 gallons, 12 quarts, and it was about where it was where you're supposed to fill these tanks to, about half, 3/4. So we'll let this drain out for a while and kind of inspect it, and hopefully there's no metal shavings anywhere. So the way I got this thing on here is, as you can see, is just 2 tube clamps. I've got another clamp. I'd like to clamp the other side of this tank up here. I'll have to make a bracket just to make sure this tank don't move, but it's on there pretty solid. We'll see what's in this drain pan. I don't see anything on the drain pan, so that's good. I'll order a new filter this week, and I'll also cut that other filter apart, even though it's brand new. But better safe than sorry. Kind of check things out and see how everything looks in there. We'll get that I'll get that filter ordered probably tonight, so I can get that other one off of there and cut it apart this week. See if there's anything in that. But I don't think so. I think if we were going to see something, it would have been in the tank, because it's not filtered on the way back to the tank. It's only filtered to the motor. So I've got my filter in line out of my out of the oil pump, and it's filters before it goes into the oil cooler, and then it goes to the motor out of the oil cooler. So when I was on the track, oil temp got around 200 degrees, which is fine. It might be a little cool. I don't really know. It's the first time I've ever monitored oil temp. So I have all Brown and Miller hose on this car. First time I've ever used them. So far, it's working pretty good. Some of the hoses came from, they were already pre-made from NASCAR teams off of eBay. I don't normally do that, but they're this Brown and Miller hose is expensive when it's new. I had one little dash 10 made up about 16 inches long, and it cost me about $120 altogether to make that one little hose. But I haven't had any issues with this NASCAR takeoff stuff that I've used. It you know, I got two 40 something inch sections of this stuff off eBay, and it was like $20 a hose, I think. So, pretty decent. And then all I did when I got it is I kind of flush the hoses out, make sure none of them leaked, and around. Like I said, I haven't had any issues. Just spilled a bunch of oil on the ground. So, kind of interesting thing about these are pig mats. Use these instead of oil dry because you don't have to sweep it up. But these things will not absorb water. They only absorb a petroleum-based product, and I don't know how they do it, but I thought that was kind of neat. So I use Brad Penn oil in this, 2050 weight. We've used it in all of our cars. I've never had an issue, oil-related issue anyway. My brother on his cars had a couple lifter failures, but that wasn't because of oil. Now that other 16 return that I'm going to be moving, that I'm using for my breather, I've got this cap. I'll cap that off with this after I clean it up. So what I'll do is I'll just tape up the ends of these oil lines and go from there. Well, I don't have a ton of battery left, so I'm going to go ahead and finish getting this tank out, and I'll go charge some of my other batteries for the GoPro. We're already at almost an hour-long video, so a lot of it will get edited out, but even still, this for a 10-minute job, already been an hour, so I'll go ahead and get the tank out, and we'll get you back to me whenever I get it out. So here we are. We got the tank out. I apologize if you guys can hear a little bit of wind noise. A little warm out here today. Got the doors open. Crappy lighting, so not really much I can do there yet. So we'll get this tank split apart. It's these straps are what your mounts bolt to, and I'm going to adjust the position of the tank a little bit anyway, so as you can see, the tank's pretty dirty. About half of it got covered in oil in the breather. And like I said, even though this was in the middle of the car, the oil still reached up that far, and the breather's at the back of the car on the driver's side. So let me show you what I think was happening. So here's our, get this orientated. Sorry, I kind of new to this. There we are. Here's our oil return. And here's where I was using the breather. So if you look on the inside here, this is the oil breather, and this is the return. So when the tank was pressuring up, it was just spraying oil over to here, and the pressure was just pushing it straight out this other hole. Or at least that's the theory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the breather over to here. We'll drill a hole, weld a bung on there after I get it all cleaned up and free of oil and debris, and hopefully that'll solve that issue. So now here's what's going on inside. You got this stand that goes in there. And this is to help control oil and prevent aeration of the oil, stuff like that. And then your tank. So I'm not seeing any metal flakes in there, so that's good. So I don't really think there's a whole lot to be concerned with as far as engine health is concerned. Move that out of the way. And we'll, I'm gonna have to run over to my work. I've got a parts washer there. I'll toss this in the parts washer, get all cleaned up, get all the oil off of it, and then we'll hit it with some brake clean and drill our hole, get all the metal shavings out of it, and weld the bung on it. A little pro tip for you guys: if you're going to be doing any welding, you're going to clean your parts, which you should be doing, you can only use non-chlorinated brake clean if you're going to weld on it. Otherwise it'll create a toxic gas, and that's not good. So if there's ever any doubt, if you look on this, it says non-chlorinated. I believe the CRC brand, every green can is non-chlorinated, and the red can, I believe, has it in it. So look for the green can. It'll say non-chlorinated on it. So I'll run over to my work and get this thing cleaned up and come back, and we'll get this done. Okay, we're back. Got everything washed up. I actually forgot to turn the camera on. Started drilling my hole for my new breather spot. Don't have quite a large enough drill bit, but I think this will work. Waller it out a little bit. Okay, I got it to the point where we're ready to weld it. So I guess I'll get everything moved over and get this sucker welded up and cleaned up and get it back in the car. Yeah, and after thinking about it, come in here and look at this again. Since this was the oil return and this was the breather, it was just throwing oil directly in front of that breather. So, and it was pushing, I guess it was just pushing it straight out to the breather. Since there was, I don't know how much pressure was in the tank, but it was enough, I guess. That's the theory anyway. It makes sense to me. So you can see where I got the new hole. That should be decent enough. Hopefully fix that issue. So I'll get everything moved over to the other side of the shop and get the welder set up, and we'll get her welded on there. Sorry about that, battery died. As I was saying, I'm not a good welder by anybody's standards. I especially struggle with aluminum. Not half bad with steel, but it's still not great. Sorry about that. I had to grab a new rod. The other one had some crap on it. But, yeah, I struggle with aluminum. It's pretty tough. Really easy to screw it up. I'm using a AHP Alpha TIG here. So I'll give it a shot, see what happens. Alright guys, I think that'll kind of be it for the day. We got the oil tank off, got a new bung welded on to relocate that breather. I think that'll work. So I'm almost out of battery. I've already gone through 2, so you know, kind of is what it is. I'll have to get a couple more batteries, and hopefully we can get you a little more footage. I know this one's going to be kind of long. Most of them probably will be, but you know, kind of is what it is at this point. You know, I'll edit out as much as I can anyway. So alright, well, I appreciate you hanging out with me. Let me know if you like this, or if I should just shut up. Thanks.